Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video, interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist/secular/awesome community. This is episode number 170. I recorded this interview on November 20th, 2018. Thanks to Maddie Love for being my guest last week. I will get over your lack of having one beer in your house around the year 2070. Listen to our fucking shows, people. That's why you're here. Deborah and Jeanne are smart and would no doubt do a show 100 times better than mine, but due to technical issues, they can only show up here when I remember that they are not just the Waldorf and Statler of my chat room. Waldorf and Statler are also alone. Tonight we discuss another reason never to go to a Motel 6, what a census is again, why I'm desperately searching all of my family's attics to find a non-existent Jewish Spanish heritage, and playing that super fun game of where you fake throw the ball to your dog except for student loan forgiveness.
Turn my treasures to me, and I myself will carry you to the gates of Valhalla.
I'm kind of waited.
You will ride eternal, shining and chrome.
Why isn't this recorded? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast. We have Deborah and Jeanne back. Let's say hi first.
Hello, Zach.
Hello.
Hi, Zach.
That sounds very natural. I speak English good. I have one out-of-context quote each. So for Deborah,
Yeah.
I have, actually, I'd love a tiny baby goat. That was probably in the chat room.
I would love a baby goat. Have you seen them? Baby goats wearing pajamas, jumping around. Don't you want one?
Baby
They're
goat yoga.
No, they're delicious.
They're delicious. I didn't know if you ate them until they were older, but okay.
No, you have to eat them before they're 6 months old, because if they're any older, you can't taste their innocence.
He's tasted a lot of innocence in her day, but we'll get there later, or never. And Jeanne quote, you know you could just fake laugh on your show, right? No, I can't, by the way.
No.
Yeah, but you're going to try. You usually do when we're on, so.
So there's this thing that Deborah and Jeanne, or Jeanne and Deborah, depending on, what side of the world you're on, they do is they send me lots of guest ideas and show ideas and questions. And what I do as a responsible podcast host is usually ignore that. But tonight, we are doing something totally different. We're actually paying attention to Deborah and her stories of the day. So she has 3 stories. But before we get into the stories, of course, we have to talk to people about what we're drinking tonight. So I'm drinking a Founder's Better Half. This is a barrel-aged old ale, and it tastes like basically bourbon and toffee, kind of. So, Deborah, what do you have?
I have ginger ale with an extraordinarily modest amount of bourbon in it.
So far.
So far. Yes.
And from Vermont, what do we got?
I was running under a time crunch, so I am back to my fallback, which is Polish water.
Yay!
Well, you'll never die that way, so it's good. Okay, so we have the first story of 3 from courthousenews.com. They're not, giving you a restraining order, right? Because you probably check them out a lot. So you have a story about
I go there every day.
Scientists and the census shakeup. So what's up with this whole census thing?
Okay. Actually.
Way to start off with the weak one for me, Zach. Great, thanks.
We'll work our way up or work our way down, either way.
No, actually, if we could, can we start with the Motel 6 settlement?
All right, we'll skip ahead. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Just kidding.
Great.
It happened.
Thank you.
All that. Motel.
You should know better. Like Deborah drives the
Settlement.
show when she's doing it. So.
Yeah, I know. I should have done this.
Just shut the fuck up. Hey, Deborah, which one would you like to start off with?
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to start out with the Motel 6 settlement. Okay, it was filed in January of 2018. It was listed as Jane V. et al. V. Motel 6 V. whatever their parent companies are. Essentially, what occurred is that specifically in the Phoenix area, and oddly enough in the Washington State area, but the settlement extends nationwide because apparently this happened at other Motel 6 locations. Guests would check in, and guess what? If your name was McDonald, well, they were happy about that. If your name was Ruiz, some employees were sending your information to ICE. And then you were going to get either a knock at the door, or they would come and interview you, or request that you come in for an interview. It was about as clear of ethnic profiling as you could possibly get. And it wasn't that they were notifying ICE of these people because they had done anything wrong. They registered and checked into a Motel 6. That's all that happened.
Actually, I had a question about that.
Yes.
So it was incredibly curious to me that the only things that were mentioned in this article was the Albuquerque, New Mexico area, and then Washington State. Mm-hmm. And it just seems odd to me that there weren't more locations noted in this article.
Okay, in answer to that
observation.
Objection. Just kidding. Don't do the alert thing.
Don't anyone do that, please. In answer to that question, though, the settlement applies to anyone who has been injured in this way by any Motel 6. And so those individuals, there were, I want to say 7, but there might have been 8 listed plaintiffs, but it was in fact a class action lawsuit. So the damages are available to anyone that this has occurred to. And my understanding from what I've read is that this has occurred in other places, but primarily in the Southwest. So the settlement is arranged in tiers where there's a certain amount of money available to individuals who are actually hauled into immigration and deportation proceedings were begun. There's another level for individuals who are simply interviewed by ICE. And then there's another one where you can make a small claim if your information was even shared with ICE. So there we are.
Wait, so how did they come up with the number then? Because if there were 8 actual plaintiffs, but yes, it is open to other people, how did they come up with these numbers in order to come up with this monetary amount? That's
a great question. And those individuals are not getting those chunks of money. I think they determined that the average payout for the top tier is going to be around $7,000, I want to say. So this happened to a lot of people. This didn't just happen to 7 people. This happened to a lot of people. Within the settlement, $7.6 million was set aside for the plaintiff's needs, and $1.3 was set aside for the attorney fees. So it came to a total of $8.9 million settlement by Motel 6. And this is the interesting,
Oh
no.
Haley interfered.
Clearly, the guest is guilty, so that's good. I was kind of wondering, but I'll wait till she gets back to go. Well, how many people actually got deported because of this? But I don't know if we know that.
Okay, so what I had for numbers is that guests that were interrogated would receive a total of $1 million. Those who were placed in immigration removal proceedings would receive a total of $5.6 million. Plaintiffs whose information were shared but who were not affected further would receive a total of up to $1 million. So now, because if this is going to be a nationwide thing, one of my next questions would be, okay, so how far does this get divvied? And I want to say that the end of this is actually, I don't think they went into.
At least she finally disappeared.
Yeah, right. I don't think they went into like how long is this going to stay open. So that would be an interesting thing. Like if there are thousands of people, everybody gets $26. Like, is that how that's going to work?
Probably. How much Polish water can you buy for that?
A handle.
A handle.
26. Yep, $26. Well, it depends on your grade of Polish water.
I wondered, it was too easy. See, Deborah got in here like 20 minutes early. And the first 2 times she's been on the show, it's been
45 minutes later.
I think we started one show probably 30 minutes late because of the issues. I think she's been on, I won't even say how many times because I can edit this in later. How many times she's been on the show.
A handful. Not quite a handful.
But I won't.
So one of the things that kind of surprised me was this was, according to the article, was that this was really based around how the employees were handling things versus how their management staff was choosing to handle things. So are these employees fired? Have they been reprimanded? Like, I don't know how Motel 6 plus their
company policy about don't narc people to ICE.
Well, I mean, that was one of those things is, and I've got this as in response to a lawsuit, Motel 6 denied wrongdoing and said that its corporate policy against sharing this sort of information would be sufficient. I was like, well, apparently it's not, because people have been doing this, but there's no mention in this thing, and maybe Deborah can talk to that if she comes back on, if they actually moved forward with that and said like, okay, so this was a corporate policy. What are we going to do with you now?
I don't know. This episode might be 40 minutes of us talking about our favorite Thanksgiving sides at the rate we're going.
Let's segue to that right now because we can wait for her to get back. Do you want to let's talk about food, Zach. We're both good at that.
Let's talk about food. Yeah.
Let's talk
today
about food, baby.
So yeah, it's just the wife and I doing Thanksgiving. I mean, we're doing something later with some friends, but we decided not to focus on like the main course because we both admitted that we didn't really think much of turkey. It was mostly a gravy,
conveyance.
One viewer, but nobody's in chat. So yeah, of course.
Is it Deborah?
Being in the South, casseroles and sides are such a big deal. So I think it's squash casserole. There's green bean casserole. There's a rice casserole. I'm doing like mashed sweet potatoes. I could do like mashed cauliflower if I want. And I'm doing a beer can chicken just because I was like, turkey. I didn't want to buy it. Like turkeys are cheap, but you have to like cook a whole 15-pound turkey or two of them.
Right. And then what do you do with it? You eat for 6 months on that. 1.5
stomachs. So yeah. We're going to just do a beer can chicken and then a bunch of sides and a pumpkin gooey cake, which is a very good recipe. And then we're going to meet friends later and probably have beverages. So
I was going to say, swap leftover sides?
Do you have a top, Thanksgiving kind of side draft pick?
Yeah, I'm going to actually spend a day with my chosen family person that's in the area. I get a free turkey at work every year. And I'm never going to fucking cook a turkey, but she happens to be a chef. So she gets the turkey. We go down and spend the day cooking it, eating it. I get way too many leftovers, except not enough dressing, because that's a thing.
She even said it correctly. I always call it stuffing, and my wife has to, correct me, because you don't actually... Well, the way we do it, we don't put it in the turkey, so it's not really stuffing.
It's dressing.
And I have to say, the only way I know how to reach Deborah is through the Facebook Messenger, and I sent her a message, and I got no response. So I'm sure her daughter are aware that she got booted, because it would be sad to she was halfway through question number 2, and then she's gone.
Right.
We might have to do a makeup if she doesn't make it.
Well, that'll give me time to read the other article that I was just like, what the fuck is this thing talking about? Use a goddamn pronoun.
I totally scanned because I know with Deborah, she's going to have a lot of info on everything. So.
Yeah, good thing she's here.
I know. I have no plan B. It's why it's a Thanksgiving side talk.
Yeah, well, side talk.
We got maybe.
Yeah, we had a power outage. Sorry about that, guys. We lost our power. I don't know what happened. It's Florida. Go figure.
Well, we already solved all the problems. Actually, no, we were going to kind of rewind and let Jeannie, I think you asked me a question that you could ask Deborah, since Deborah knows things.
I don't know.
Which means, yeah, you do. Okay, so this is an open-ended.
Okay.
It's open-ended. I didn't see a result within the article that you sent me as to like what the cutoff time was for when you can apply for this sort of settlement. What happens if like 10,000 people all apply of various sorts? Does everybody just get like $26? That was
then. Yes, the parties split the available monies. They have until some point in 2019 to apply. There's a small amount of the funds that are set aside for individuals who don't apply for some reason, or their application gets waylaid, misled.
Postponed, yeah.
Right, for some reason, or they don't realize that damage has been done them. But that's a relatively small amount.
Well, then there was also discussion of like separating the attorney's fees in there. Like, are these primarily being looked at by like the ACLU kind of as a whole? So this is just going to funding costs? Like are there one or two major organizations that are kind of looking into this, or is this just like every individual attorney kind of gets a share?
No, it was a class action lawsuit, sir. So they're represented by a legal firm or a pair of legal firms. Because it is a settlement, all right, that means it's done not by, this still has to be approved by the judge. This has not yet been approved by the judge. Because it's a settlement, then those numbers can be reached with input from everybody, from both sides. So oddly enough, that's a relatively small amount of attorney fees for a class action suit. I mean, normally the attorneys will walk away with a much bigger piece of the pie. Is there
a projection as to how many people they think might actually be involved? I mean, I saw a couple of numbers thrown out there, but nothing that.
As near as I can tell, that and I don't have a good answer for that. I'm sorry. The estimation was that if you had deportation proceedings brought against you, you can look at receiving about 7,000 and something. If you were hauled in for questioning, then I think the limit is like $1,000. And then there's like if your data was released, but no harm came to you, then it's a much smaller sum of money.
Okay, so there is a cap per person, as long as it falls within whatever that prearranged settlement is.
It isn't that there's a cap, but I think they have a fairly good handle on how many people were in fact rounded up by ICE and how many people were interviewed by ICE. So there might be some surprises coming out of the woodwork, but I get the feeling that there's not going to be a lot of surprises coming out of the woodwork. That was my understanding.
So one of the other questions that I kind of had when I was reading this is, this is saying that there are some employees within a couple of locations, and that this does not represent the policies of Motel 6. We just fucking lost her again. Oh, wait, are you back? Okay.
Yeah,
Did you catch that?
No. I'm right here. Yes, no. Actually,
okay. You blipped out for a second.
Oh, sorry. Let's hope for the best. Hopefully the squirrels or hamsters are going in the circle.
Well, and so then, like, the kind of the follow-up to that also is what I got towards the end of the article is, quote, in a response to lawsuit, Motel 6 denied wrongdoing and said its corporate policy against sharing this sort of information would be sufficient. And so, like, okay, so what's happening to the people that shared the information? Because apparently it wasn't sufficient. Are they revising their policies?
Yes.
Are they enforcing them? Like, what's happening to the employees that...
Okay, two things. One is, and oddly enough, I was asked this by a family member earlier today, and I gave him the wrong information because on first glance, I thought the settlement also acknowledged we did a bad thing and we're sorry. The settlement does not acknowledge that, and that's a thing that happens with settlements as opposed to judgments. There is not necessarily an admission of wrongdoing. And if you look at the settlement, and we can link to the show notes if you want, under Part 14, which is Roman numeral XIV, but it's Part 14, Segment A.
Who cares, Deborah?
I'm just letting you know.
It'll be linked. People will look it up if they care. Keep going.
It says no. There's no admission of liability, and they're not admitting that they. Not only is there no admission of liability, but they are not agreeing to the merits. They're not agreeing to the accuracy. They're not agreeing to the validity of the information, or they're not agreeing that any of the allegations are true. In other words,
but they're willing to throw down $9 million just because.
Motel 6 is throwing down $9 million and saying, yeah, but we're not going to say we did anything wrong. Now, they did indicate in the settlement that they are establishing better employee training, and that employees will have access to a, like 1-800 Ask Law number in case some question comes out about something similar to this.
Isn't that just called HR?
As a general rule, yeah. But
okay.
What I find interesting is, yeah, they're ponying up $9 million and they're saying, yeah, we're not going to admit that we did anything wrong. But here's $9 million. So, but
do you get a sense that, like, is this Motel 6 only because this is the only chain that has been named in this? Do you feel like there will be other people that will be tied into this as well? And can they be part of the same settlement, or is this like a whole other settlement?
This is specifically against Motel 6 and its parent companies. If other hotel chains have been doing this, I've not heard of it. The lawsuit was filed in January of this year, and it's certainly gotten enough press that I would imagine that if someone is going to say, I was staying at the Hyatt and this happened, or staying at Marriott and this happened, they would have also litigated. That is my guess. But when something is litigated and it comes to a settlement like this,
it's just down to those parties.
Well, more importantly, you have to ask, why does a company settle? I mean, they'll say, well, we don't want to go through protracted legal costs, which is true. But
that also, like, that would kind of, to me, put forward the presumption that you would expect a much higher legal cost that could come down from this if you didn't settle. Exactly.
And settling is a nice way to say, look, because for it to be filed in January, and the settlement was developed, I think, was released on November 2nd. In the legal world, that's not a lot of time.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of time. That's enough time for a company to say, okay, grab all the money, we're cutting our losses now. And
okay, so is this like a relevant question to ask, and maybe it's not, is like, what is it about Motel 6 employees that make them feel like this is okay?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I can't
didn't know if you stumbled across any of that in your research.
I can't speak to that because I don't know. But in answer to that question, can we talk about the census now?
Oh, sure. Transition. But quickly, before we transition, I have one question. What if ReasonCon were back on, but it was at the Motel 6?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What do you have to hide, huh?
Ooh.
What's your problem? I think that's
Ooh, they'll release all the names of all the secret secular humanists. Ooh.
We're super secret.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you want to talk about the article that we started with? Okay.
I do. I want to talk about the census. Jeannie?
So what about the census? And what do you got?
I told you that I don't have much on this, so just like sum it up, bitch.
That's okay. We've we already talked 5 minutes about side dishes when you had your power outage.
We are due to have a census done in 2020. And one of the things that has been proposed, and oddly enough, was proposed by the previous Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross, who's no longer with this administration because, well, they seem to drop pretty fast. At any rate, the question, what they proposed is that a citizenship question be asked on the census. So instead of the census saying, how old are you? How many people in your house? They're not going to ask, are you citizens? And this is currently being litigated in a couple different ways because you can see why that's problematic. You will have individuals who will either feel that if I answer yes, I'm going to get scrutiny. I'm going to get INS knocking on my door to be sure that I'm actually a citizen. Or it's going to be a matter of, well, yeah, I'm a citizen, but my mother isn't, and she lives with us, so I'm just not going to respond. And you're going to wind up with a grossly inaccurate count of people. You're going to scare people away from answering. And when and the reason I wanted to cover Motel 6 along with this is because when people will make the argument, well, that they're just being silly, and of course they should answer, and of course they should understand that how the answer doesn't matter. We just want to get a good count of numbers. It's like, yeah, except people checked into Motel 6 and wondered what ICE knocking on their door. So right. No, it's a relevant thing. And one can argue and say, well, why, okay, so people are going to opt out of answering the census. And in my opinion, the 2020 census is going to be a lot more complicated to get done. Because the reason is, first they send out the application, the form, which you should politely fill out and mail in return. But the second thing they do is they call. Well, in 2010, people still had landlines. Who has landlines anymore? Well, my parents do. But who has landlines anymore? No one does.
Usually people that have common blackouts.
So how do you wind up? Following up with those individuals? So then the third thing is for census worker to come and knock on your door and say you didn't fill out your census and how many people live here and how old are they?
Right, because that's not invasive.
Because that's it gets worse as it goes on. So you're going to have people who are going to not respond. And census data is used not only to determine the kind of how much, to determine levels of representation within the federal government, but it is also used to determine how public funds are spent. It determines education. It determines roads. It determines infrastructure. It determines law enforcement levels, how much law enforcement is provided, how much law enforcement a town or a county thinks they need.
You just preempted my question about that, which was, okay, so why is the census relevant? Because I really do think that people should take the census when and if they can. But then kind of related to that, and I don't want to go too far off the track with this, but then how do people how many people of what gender are in your house? And more people are assigning themselves as non-gender specific or as a different gender than they were born with. I don't want to take this off the rails, but this is another one of those no, for a lot of people this can be scary. It can be, but and you're not being represented, which is the more important part.
But again, the difficulty is that the census provides for representation, and it provides for distribution and allocation of public monies, both federal and state. And if people are afraid to answer, then they will be underrepresented. And if you live here and you pay taxes, you have a right to be represented. Even if you are not a legal citizen and cannot vote, you have a right to be represented. But if people are going to be scared away by the citizenship question, which I would argue that people will be, it's unnecessary because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We're not counting voters. We're counting how many people live in this house or apartment or condo or townhouse or trailer. That's what we want to know, period.
Okay, so do you mind if we take that back briefly, at least, to the actual beliefs that our country was founded upon? Like, no, if you were born here, you know, like you put in your dues, like you're a good citizen, why are you not counted? I mean, yeah, granted it was for white people, but it was for white people from a lot of different backgrounds.
Well, two of us live in Georgia and Florida, so.
I know, right? I'm barking up the wrong tree on that one.
I'm not sure I understand. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, it's not really a question. It's more like a statement. Like, our country was founded upon, no, these are people who like have chosen to be here and live here. So, well, yeah, just the people that chose, not the people that didn't choose. That's a whole other issue. But these people have come to the United States for the most part, largely, are doing their best to contribute to society, to be active participants in it as much as they're allowed to be. Why aren't we allowing them to be citizens? Like, to be okay, like, to be okay.
Well, citizenship is a different question, but they have a right to be counted regardless.
Yes, yeah, because you can't be a citizen if you're not getting counted.
Well, no, you can be, actually. That's the point of the census. Is you might be here and you might be you might have applied for citizenship or applied for asylum, and that can take forever and a day to sort out. But in the meantime, you have a right to representation.
Yes.
And if your numbers are not accurately counted, you will not get accurate representation. You will not get an accurate piece. You will not get an appropriate piece of federal and state funding. So, and I think that when people make light of the idea that, well, it shouldn't be a big deal. If you're a citizen, say you're a citizen, and if you're not, say you're not. Well, all you have to do is look what happened at Motel 6 and think, yeah, I can see why people might not want to answer that. I could see why people might not want to answer at all.
Well, you and I, Deborah, live in states that have done two different things that are also like pretty freaking cool recently. One is that Florida has recently allowed people who have served their sentence to be able to be allowed to vote. And I think that's really important.
Rights, yes.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I've got on my end, I don't know, like, Zach, do you have anything similar to this? Is that there is, in this area at least, a public movement to be able to allow people who are not citizens, but are, to allow them to become registered voters. They can't vote in federal level elections, but they can vote in state and city.
Not that I'm aware of.
We have no initiative like that in Florida that I am aware of.
Yeah. So, like, there are things happening around the country. They just kind of, like, mostly flare under the radar. Like, it's not this, like, larger question of census taking, but I can see where in both of those things, like, the census really does apply. You know, is that part of the census? I never really thought to ask before. Just now is have you ever been convicted of like a federal level crime? Or
it doesn't ask those kinds of questions. To the best of my knowledge, no.
Okay.
It's strictly numbers, and it for a very long time it has been counting heads. How many people have you got in your house, and how old are they?
Yeah, things that make statisticians go like, whoo.
Exactly. But now we've got this new monkey wrench of the administration wanting to have a citizenship question. And that will, I think, have the effect of driving down response. Driving down response drives down representation, drives down the ability of law enforcement to protect, it drives down dollars for education, it drives down all those things.
So can you make this apply to states that are primarily red states? Because I know that, like, the three of us are generally pretty frickin' lefty-ish. So, like, how do we make that argument of representation matter towards the people to whom it doesn't seem to matter?
I don't know. What you're really saying is, if to people who live in New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, Florida, possibly Georgia, I don't know. You're saying what you want is the rest of the country to pay attention and say, look, everyone should be counted. That gets very difficult because, as we've seen, people get very proprietary about these things, and they'll feel, well, they are not citizens, therefore they should have no voice. I believe that's untrue.
That. Yes.
Yes, that was well said, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
So
do you want to move on to this next one? Because this is the really interesting one for me.
Well, we can talk about it some more if you want, but I do have one more thing I did want to cover that is sort of related to this. And I find this very interesting, and I also assigned this as homework. So there we go.
Well, it's also it ties into everything else that we've been talking about, which is kind of the disenfranchisement of people within their own culture.
Yes. And that is that in 2015, a law was passed so that individuals who could establish, let's back up. We are going to go back to 1492. When the Sephardic Jews were expelled from Spain. And Spain has now decided that they feel kind of bad about the whole Inquisition, convert, leave, or be killed kind of option. And Spain has said that if you can prove that you have Sephardic roots, then we will in fact allow you to emigrate to the country. Now there's fairly stringent citizenship requirements. You have to take a citizenship test. You have to be able to speak Spanish. I mean, they're just not saying walk in the front door. But nonetheless, they're saying if you can prove that you are Jewish, and you don't have to be a practicing Jew, you can be a Catholic, because you probably got converted along the way. You can come here and live. And there are a fairly by significant, I mean several hundred people who are interested in doing this. And they are, again, primarily coming from the Southwest. And they're coming from areas where they're saying, look, my name is Gonzalez. Our family is Catholic. We've lived here for 3 generations. And all of a sudden, I feel very unwelcome in my own home. And people are leaving, and they're going to Spain. So far, there have been worldwide 6,400 people have responded to this, and it's available. It doesn't end until I think next year.
Right. I think I caught like end of 2019.
How could we do this? But no.
So I find that absolutely.
I want to go to there.
But I
can you pass a test to be Jewish, Zach? Come on.
Well, and okay.
Nope.
And one might ask, well, how do you prove that? And that's not an easy thing to prove. And usually you wind up working with a local rabbi to do it. You see if within your family there's anyone that has any memory of, say, speaking Ladino, which is sort of the Spanish version of Yiddish. You look for ways that you can trace it back.
Well, it doesn't really dig down until further into the article that DNA tests are relevant to this as well. That there are, what was it that? God damn it! Hang on, I underlined a thing. It had something to do with that there is a version of cancer that is primarily represented within Sephardic, or at least Jewish. Oh wait, here it is. DNA ancestry.
You're thinking of Taste to X. That's more an Ashkenazi thing.
It didn't give me a name. It said new findings in the field of genetic research are shedding light on the Sephardic origins of many Hispanics in the United States. Also, many Hispanics have extensive Native American ancestry. And we're just oh my God, if these fucking people belong here, we all get kicked out of our forefathers mostly got kicked out of their countries or like left on purpose.
I'm trying to put it in a framework that I can make sense of, or other people can make sense of, and that is like me. And I don't have that many generations that have been here, quite frankly. I can't say we go back 5 generations because we don't. But that's like me going to being in Chicago and feeling like I'm Polish. I grew up here. My parents grew up here. My grandparents grew up here. And I'm not welcome. And I'm going to move to Poland because I'm not welcome. I mean,
right, because that sounds like a really good idea.
It's utterly terrifying.
Well, and part of the thing, like most of the article really tended to dwell on people that were based out of the United States. Mm-hmm. But then it kind of got, which I was more interested in, is that Venezuelans,
yes,
Mexicans, and then Hispanic families that have been here for a while. Mm-hmm. So that was like kind of nice, but like I'm kind of wondering, like, where else did the diaspora happen? Like, are these people coming from other regions? Because that was never really delved into. But
there's actually, I have if you want, I can link in the show notes. There's a really good YouTube video on it that shows what happened to the what happened to the Spanish Jews after they were expelled. But mostly they wound up in the closer areas of Europe. But many of them also came to the New World.
So is this like, this is open to any person who has Sephardic ancestry?
Yes.
Okay, specifically.
Actually, if Spain kicked you out because you're Jewish and you can show that you are Jewish of Sephardic descent.
Okay, so what about all the other people that are not Jewish that were also Sephardic or were also kicked out of Spain but were not Catholic? Are there reparations for those? How do they handle?
No, but I don't think that's. You're going back to the late 1400s. I mean,
right? Because I'm that nerd, so don't worry.
Yeah, right. I'm saying you didn't have a big Protestant Reformation going in Spain. So,
no.
So,
I was wondering.
So therefore,
corner though, it's coming.
It's a kind of a binary thing. You were kind of Spanish, or you were Spanish. You were either kind of Catholic, you were Jewish, or you were a converso. You were a convert.
Or you were dead.
Yeah.
Well, they're all dead now.
Chair. Yeah. Nothing. Because the story I got from my dad's side of the family was whoever moved over from Scotland changed the last name to Law because they were hiding from the law. So that's not actually the family name. I don't know. There's like a clan, I think, in Scotland that we actually are attached to, but it's like
we had a kilt.
The law and came here. It's a little
Wait, you have a kilt?
I don't have one, and if I did, you would be able to see it anyway. So what's the difference, right?
Well, you wouldn't be wearing it anyway, Zach. Like
tonight.
Wait, yeah. We're all not wearing pants. We're actively all not wearing pants.
I have leggings on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, those aren't pants.
They're leggings. They work.
Oh no, we're not going to have that same hot dog question. We're not going there. But
okay.
Now I know because Deborah's had this for a while, and she hasn't been on in a good long time. Too long. Is there anything we didn't cover with your stories that you want to talk about?
Well, no, but I did have a question. You had made note of the fact that the Department of Education was not releasing people from their student loans.
I know. I threw out another whole story that I found.
Yeah.
About how.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about? I did look into that a little bit. Did you want to talk about that, or shall we save that for another time?
Probably should save it because we're getting close to time. Although, for you've just been in for like 5 minutes because we had a power outage. Because Florida.
It's Florida. Because Florida is the gift that keeps on giving. It's our nation's version of venereal disease. Come on. It's just a gift that keeps on.
Gotta be there.
It's because of how it's shaped.
Well, for now.
Right? Like, eventually it'll all, like, fall into the ocean.
But in the state, it's going to shrink. Hard to believe, huh?
No, I figure give it another 70 years and I'm going to be sitting on beachfront property, baby.
Actually, like, just like to tie something back in and completely sidetrack this flush hole that we're going down right now.
Flush hole.
Yeah. Actually, I have a friend who was an incredibly close friend in college, and his mother was a Boston Jew, and she got pregnant by a black man. And oh boy, howdy, was that like not a thing. And he took, in one of the classes that he took in college, he took an IQ test that was based on, because, you know, IQ tests are generally based on like white Indo-European kind of culture. And so he took an IQ test that was based on African-American culture. And he got the worst fucking grade in the class because his mom's a frickin' Boston Jew. He's like, yeah, like, I don't know how to, like, I can't cook, like, chitlins. I was raised on gnocchi.
Gnocchi's good.
Well, it is, but still, this is one of those questions that I kind of had about this. Like, how do you apply to be a, like, lapsed culturally Sephardic Jew? Like, is this something that you can test for? Is this?
I think they would look through family documents. There's fairly decent. They're looking for record keeping that is from around 1845 and onward. So we're not going too far back because there tend to be
they just want somebody in your family that has some ties back to Jewish culture in some way, as well as some sort of DNA testing is kind of what I got from that.
They want to confirm as much as they can that yes, you were in fact you many generations ago link back to someone who was tossed out of Spain. Yes.
Well, so does Robert.
Oh, there's a sigh.
I know. She's so frustrated with me right now.
I'm sorry, that was a sigh of delight. It was not a sigh of frustration.
Yes, dear.
That was a sigh of delight, honey.
God, I had like a one more note that I really wanted to get to. Anyway, I had another note.
All right, Polish water takes control.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
So Deborah, while you were out,
yes,
we kind of discussed our Thanksgiving plans, and we're talking about like our favorite sides. So, do you have Thanksgiving plans you're willing to share? And when you show up?
Yes, I'm going to be at my middle son and his wife's for Thanksgiving. And as I understand, they don't want to do a turkey this year; they're doing a ham, which is fine. I can roll with that.
Are you going to iron it?
Iron it.
No,
leggings.
My son irons his own clothes. Thank you very much. I have taught my children that.
It doesn't skip a generation.
But I will miss stuffing because my favorite side dish. I love stuffing. I really do. I really like
stuffing
it.
your dressing. Like that's a contentious.
Okay, I call it stuffing because I stuff it in the turkey, so I call it stuffing.
Well, no, if you stuff it in the turkey, it's stuffing because you stuffed it in the turkey. If you just lay it along the side and it bakes, or it's in its own dish.
The turkey is called force meat, but okay.
Force meat.
Ooh.
Different podcast.
I am so not going to go there, Zach. I'm going to let that one low. just go. No, it's gone.
Let it go.
Gone?
Yeah. We can let it go, but you know what we're not going to let go?
What?
Jokes.
Okay, I have a joke. Okay. I have two jokes.
You're taking my joke then because I'm cranky and tired and I don't have a joke. Go ahead.
Well, you shouldn't be I'm not cranky. You shouldn't be cranky either.
No, I'm cranky.
I
So I
said
don't have a joke.
But I'm not cranky, so you shouldn't be cranky. You see how that works?
Well, I'm the evil twin today. Fucking tell a joke.
Fine. Okay, I have 2 jokes.
Zachrilege
All right.
the week. Good call.
Is she going to tell him or just like sit there?
Oh, I'm going to tell them. Okay, the first one is a blind woman walks into a bar. And then she walks into a table and a chair, and a door.
And then the Ottoman attacked her.
Well, the Ottomans always attack. Come on, it was
Fake laughter comes in. Okay.
And the other one was
Jeannie joke.
And the other one is a
Wait, this is my joke, so you better make it good.
okay. A friend of mine was crushed by a pile of books. She only had her own shelf to blame.
That's right there.
I heart you.
I heart you too, honey.
It fits in lovely. See, when a good plan comes together and you two actually read the articles and I can just sit here, it's beautiful. It's in this like.
Did you have a good time, Zach? Did you enjoy yourself?
This is how much a good time I had.
I was gonna say, like more importantly, did you crack a second beer while we weren't looking?
No.
Okay.
So
it wasn't a great time. It was just like an okay time.
I had a lovely time. Thank you very much.
Always a great time, and it's great that Deborah has kind of the reflection. The audio people won't get this, and I'm sorry. Check out YouTube. But she's got like a halo going on. She's got a reflection of a light behind her. You know, it's just the way.
I'm about to be beatified.
Live radio, everybody. We don't even need like.
I'll start doing miracles next week.
To be, I think you need like a third of a miracle now to be like a saint. So I feel like you're set.
Oh, sweet. Saint Deborah. What am I the patron saint of?
Ooh, that's the best question.
Do not make me answer that live.
Do not wearing pants. No.
Leggings. The patron saint of leggings. And bosoms.
Well, see.
Well, they just got a fluff. Just for anybody who didn't actually bother to watch, Deborah just fluffed them for us.
I did not do that. I so did not.
Yeah. Do not cut that out of the episode, Zach.
Well, thank you, Deborah and Jeannie, for being on, and I will not falsely throw in 3 seconds of silence as Jeannie decrees at the end. So thank you for being on tonight.
Thank you, Zach. It was a lovely evening. Thank you, Jeannie. It was delightful.
Yeah, I had so much fun with you guys. I always do.
Good.
Excelente.
Caliente.
Nope.
What a day. What a lovely day.
Live read. I wasn't going to do a show this week for the live read, but we just found the perfect intersection between topic and hosts, and I couldn't help myself. This week's citation needed is on sex robots. The jokes write themselves. Also, these guys put together another vulgarity for charity, and I believe they passed $40,000 raised without being self-serving douches about doing something good. What a refreshing thing. I'm going to do a thanks for Thanksgiving, and let's see how fast I can read these. Thank you to all of my YouTube subscribers, and if it takes too long for me to scroll between pages, I'll just do the next one on the next show. Raj R. Rajiv, you know who you are. Gene Elliott, Bruce Lamersma, FrozeMud3, Czen Elimation, that probably means something, Tris Mamone, Shadowman4710, Kevin Logan, Joy of Uncertainty, Secular Soup, Karen Filerstiller, Raymond Schmidt, Marissa Alexa McCool, Glenn Parent, Nathan Dickey, Andy's White, Darluck, Shannon Lantham, Atheist Ranger, Gorilla, Mike Bowler, and then I click the button and find out who's next. Jessery, Lady Liberty with a Dick, Jay is the Man 100, Anthony Butler, Orlando Boris, Jeannie Eichard, finally, Ender Wiggin, Ephraim Collins, Intellectuum Illumina, Brandon Vandegrift, Dustin Dark, David Edwards, Dustin Dark again, Ned Quintana, Dustin Dark, great 20,000 more of you, DRN 1023, Kenya Kofi, Stoopy Bruh, R Knight, Chris Brackney, Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast, Brainstorm Podcast, Hardest 78, Blaster Master 80, and I think I'm going to just hold off and wait for the rest, just to get that excitement going. And these are people who have joined in the last year, so could you. So if you want to support this show, be like Bobby, Hugh Teote, Larry Darrell, and the other Darrell, and Freethinker215, and support this show on patreon.com/Zachrilege. You could support me for just $1 an episode, and that's way less than I pay for a beer. Follow me on Twitter, like my Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, send all mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thanks to Deborah and Jeanne for being on this week. I love both of you and hope you have a great Thanksgiving and all the days after that. I'm about to consume all the carbs and wash it down with just half the beer, and it will be a beer that Deborah and Jeanne will disown me for drinking. Ta-ta.